Well, the name of the book is The Power of Ugly, and I think when you have it finally published and people pick it up, they're going to have a fun read, not only for the humor that's in it, but for the theological content that you plow them through in a easy to understand, really reasonable way without a lot of big theological words. First question that came to mind when I thought about interviewing you was, where in the world did you come up with that theme or that image of ugly? I remember that when I finally found your website, it was ugly this and ugly this and ugly this. I knew I actually had the right person when I was searching for you. When I found a website, it had ugly all over it. So where did what got you hooked on that word and that concept?
Well, I think the concept came first, that I've always been captured with just the awareness that people are hungry for authenticity. They're hungry for things that are real and not counterfeit or phony or fake. I've never, just never appealed to me on any level. So I knew as I was writing that it was going to be a book that was filled with my failures and blunders and weaknesses. But it came to me, I think the concept, I was doing a wedding for one of my, in fact, Katie, who transcribes my original. I hand wrote the book because I couldn't get the computer to work right. I was frustrated. I was away from home on a sabbatical, and so I finally said, forget the computer, and I hand wrote it, and I have terrible handwriting, and Katie was about the only one that could decipher. She was my assistant at the time, and she deciphered it and typed it out. And anyway, I was doing Katie's wedding, and I was in this beautiful church in Cape Coral, not our church. And after the wedding, somebody that I didn't know came up and said, Pastor, this is such a beautiful church you have here. And I looked around and I thought, it is a pretty church. It really is a beautiful church. I said, but this isn't my church. I said, we're just renting this. In fact, our church, our building, it's an ugly building. And when the words came out of my mouth, it just like, yeah, we have an ugly church building. And we have, and I got to thinking about it. That just kind of is a kind of a mental picture or parable of this concept that though we have an uglier building, it would never win a contest of architectural wonder or beauty, but it's a beautiful church in what it does, not in how it looks, and not in the polishedness of the facility. And it just began to build inside of me is that's who we are. We're a people that are broken and weak and ugly, flawed, but the beauty of God is there, and we celebrate that. And so it's not the strength of our facility or the professionalism of our staff or our polishedness. It's the grace of God that makes a difference. And so ugly is kind of my giving the finger to performance-driven Christianity that has facades and is masquerading as one thing when in reality they're another. It's my way of just saying that's enough, and it's not effective, it's not relevant. Trying to perform and be something that we're not is not going to reach this lost world. And so ugly began to gain momentum in the concept as I was formulating and putting the book together. I knew that I needed a concept that kind of, in one word, encapsulated the message of the book and at least set the tone. And so ugly was that word and that concept.
And then you hooked it with the word power.
Word power, which is kind of we have such a power-hungry world, and it's almost an antagonistic approach. Is that it's deflating or stripping away the way the world thinks of power by putting the word ugly with it. It's a way of disarming power. And the last thing I would want to write a book about is how to have the power of this and the power of that and the power of this. So I don't like the word power as the way it's defined in our culture and even the way it's crept into the church. But when you put the word ugly with power, now it disarms it. Now it brings a kingdom meaning, or at least begins to open up the doors, that we can look at power in a different way. We can look at power from a kingdom perspective and see that weakness, which is really a synonym for ugly throughout the book. You could use the word weakness in every place that you find the word ugly. And I just felt like ugly was a more startling, graphic, descriptive word that would just kind of hopefully slap a little bit and say, hey, come on, let's get a biblical concept of power and a biblical concept of beauty. And so if you take these words like power and beauty and spirituality, and they've kind of been watered down and neutered, and the meaning has somewhat been just lost in this performance-driven church that we're a part of. But if you attach the word ugly to each of those great words, great concepts, but ugly helps unmask them from a worldly perspective. So if you think of ugly beauty, or ugly success, or ugly strength, or ugly power. So it's my way of reminding the church and those that are hungry, seeking for the Lord, that God's power is displayed through ugliness, through weakness, through flawed. And it's a hard battle, because for a lot of people, ugly means evil, bad,
right.
Wrong, and that's often
it's a negative word.
It's a negative concept. Though culturally, it's kind of like if you're going to buy a Jeep, that's all you see on the highway, or Jeeps. You start paying attention. So
right.
Some of it may be that. I don't know. I'm not a sociologist, but I've noticed since I've written the book that there's Ugly Betty on TV. That's an enduring way. It's not really saying she's ugly. There's been a movie out recently called The Ugly Truth. It's not. There's a fishing pole called the Ugly Stick, and it's a functional, strong pole. Emphasizing it's the strength of the stick, not so much the prettiness of it. So I see our culture starting to catch on a little bit as maybe a counter reaction to so much emphasis on artificial, superficial beauty and significance.